This is Bree.
Bree, what's going on? It's Becca Switzer with Roof Sales Mastery. How's it going today?
Hi, it's going real great. Thanks for calling.
Absolutely. Looking forward to chatting with you today. It looks like we're going to be talking about supplements.
Definitely. And I've got my dad on the line too. Are you there,
Awesome.
Dad?
Yes. Hi, Becca. My name's Brant Colston with Ascent Roofing.
Hi, Brant. How's it going? And it is Brant.
Good, thank
Yes. Okay, perfect. I want to make sure I heard that right.
So my dad is a roofing contractor, and he's working by himself right now, mostly.
Okay.
And a lot of work, and so he's looking to offload his supplementing stuff to me.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant, so
Perfect.
I've never been in sales, never been in roofing.
Yeah.
Don't really know what's going on there. And I've been kind of getting my feet wet for a couple of weeks. We've got Xactimate, and we're using Xactimate. And I'm just kind of trying to learn the ropes. And so, of course, I'm on Googling everything I possibly can. And you came up over and over again.
Yeah.
So for somebody who is new to roofing, who is new to sales, and supplementing is like selling to these insurance agents.
Exactly.
What program do you have that would be suitable for somebody like me who's looking to learn as quickly as possible so that I can jump right in?
Perfect. Yeah, okay, that's really easy then. Let's keep this super simple. There's no way to self-teach yourself everything that you need to know about this business. There's people that have been doing this for a decade that are still like, I'm still lost. I figured some things out. And when we're talking about supplementing, the thing is, every tiny miss on a supplement costs you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in profit on every single job. And so it's like nobody can know everything, but the more little bits and pieces and nuances of the process that adds profit every single time, right? So supplementing is going to be, there's three main steps to it. So step one is what you ask for. So right now you're dabbling in Xactimate and you're seeing there's a lot of different items and stuff like that. And when your dad's going to be sending you claims, you're going to see most estimates are going to look pretty much the same because insurance companies try to pay for as little as humanly possible every single time, right? Because they're a business and businesses are in business to make money. And you got to think, let's say that State Farm does 500,000 hail claims in a certain area one year. If they can save just $1,000 on each of those, that's a lot of money that they don't have to pay out. So supplementing, it has to be done on 100% of claims. You're never going to have a claim come back that you're like, oh, wow, they gave us everything. That never happens. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And sometimes people think you can find people that think that supplementing has to mean price gouging. They don't understand and they think, well, you're just being greedy. But that's not the case at all. The greedy ones are typically the insurance companies. And I'm not saying they're out to screw people because that's not necessarily what they're doing. But they're going to always try to get away with paying as little as possible. And the problem with that is for the contractor and the homeowner. For the contractor, you want to do a certain, quality job. You want things to be up to code. You want to replace things when they should be replaced. And the insurance company's like, yeah, but can't you reuse all those 10-year-old pipe jacks? Can't you just do this? And you're like, no, we don't want to do that. But they're going to make it difficult for you. And that's why supplementing is such a crucial process to running a storm restoration business, because they're always going to try to nickel and dime you as much as they can. So supplementing, basically, step one is what you ask for. Now, most contractors end up only asking for the most obvious basic components. So they're asking for you'll look at an estimate and you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know, okay, they didn't pay for a ridge and starter. They didn't pay for O&P. Doesn't look like they're paying for a dumpster here with the siding. But those are the most obvious line items. And here's the problem. One, they're very limited. You're talking about 4, 5, 6 items that you're asking for most of the time. Two, if you are asking for the same items that every other contractor is calling up Allstate to ask for, adjusters are trained how to say no to those items. Okay? Sure. You're going to start to hear canned objections. So you'll hear things all the time, here are a few real easy famous ones. You're going to ask for ridge and starter, and they're going to say to you, well, ridge and starter is already included in the waste. Next.
Yep.
And you're
like, I already heard that one.
Yeah, that's what they say. And then you'll ask for, let's say, drip edge, and they go, well, we actually don't pay for anything that's not directly damaged by the hail. And you're like, okay. Or they'll say, well, we don't pay for code upgrades. Or they'll say, you'll ask for overhead and profit, and they'll say, well, not enough trades. And you're like, but it's roof, siding, and gutters. And they'll say, well, roofing doesn't count as a trade. And you're like, what? Or then you'll have 5 trades. There'll be paint, there'll be an HVAC unit, there's going to be interior damage on the ceiling. And then they'll say, well, you got enough trades, but it's not complex enough in nature. We're not going to pay that. So they're going to have a bunch of different objections for you, because think about it like this. You're at a State Farm meeting, you're an adjuster, they've got a team meeting just like Brant's probably doing with his guys. Like, all right, guys, when a customer says they don't want to file a claim because they're afraid their rates are going to go up, here's how you handle that objection. You remind them that it's not like a car accident where they were responsible for the wreck, so they're a higher risk customer. It's like, well, if hail hits your house, there's nothing you can do about it. Here's how you handle that objection. Well, at State Farm, they're sitting there going, okay, guys, when a contractor calls and says they want you to pay overhead and profit, tell them there's not enough trades. And if you tell them and then if there are enough trades, well, then just tell them that it's not complex enough. Because who has a definition for complex? It's not quantifiable, right? There's no formula. Okay. So what I'm getting at here is, if you're asking for the same line items that your adjuster literally has a scripted sheet in front of him where he goes, oh, that's what they said, then I just say this, you're going to be having a really hard time banging your head against the wall. So what I did was I got really, really creative. And again, I'm not special. I just saw an opportunity to do things differently when I started selling roofs, because I saw these dudes at my office every day saying the same things over and over and over, having the same arguments. And I was like, do you guys ever get overhead and profit? Do you ever get ridge and starter? Do you ever get your ice and water shield or your dumpster or like blah, blah, blah? And they're like, well, I mean, sometimes. I'm like, okay, but it doesn't really sound like it. Sounds like it's taking you 2 hours to get another, $1,000. Like, what are you guys doing? And so I'm like, okay, logically, there have to be more items here. Like, what are we not looking at? So what I have done for years is I have combed through the deep, dark corners of Xactimate, and I have found all these items that are totally legitimate, but you never see on an estimate, you never hear anybody ask for them, and the adjusters never hear of them either, most of the time. So we're adding weird stuff that's totally legit, but we're avoiding banging our head against the wall and having a pissing contest over the basic items that every other contractor is asking for. You follow me?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So how I have it organized in the program is it's called the master list of supplemental items. And that's just a list of well over 100 things in there that are kind of outside the box. That first of all, instead of asking for the same 5, 6, 7 things all the time, you could ask for 18 things that are kind of outside the box. If you were asking for 6 things before and the adjuster said no to half of them, you're only getting 3 things approved. Like, that's a pretty small supplement. It's almost not worth your time. If you're asking for 18 things and you get half of those approved, that's 9 things. That's triple the supplement you're getting approved before. And typically easier because you're not asking for the stuff that they're already pissed off that you're asking them about.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, that does.
So there's a ton of opportunities like that, and like they're so obvious. Like, that's the crazy part, is what I always say is the biggest handicap that most people have with the supplementing process is you don't know what you don't know. Like, Bree, how can you look for something in Xactimate if you don't even know what the item is?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I've already run into that.
Right? And it's not like, oh, I see something, I can add it. It's like people literally don't know that you can add these certain things. Ladder jacks for all sorts of weird stuff. You can substitute line items. Like on almost every single claim, most houses have fascia metal, okay, that trims the house. And on every single claim, adjusters have no problem paying for fascia. That's about the most obvious hail damage that there is. You drive by a house on the street and you're like, that's hail. But adjusters write it up as like 6 or 8 inch fascia. And you're going to look at that and go, sweet, they paid us for the fascia, and you're going to move on, when really what that line item indicates in Xactimate is pre-bent sections of like 10-foot, metal pieces of fascia that you could buy at the Home Depot. That I've never seen anybody in my life go buy prefabricated, pre-bent fascia. You're going to have a sider out there that's got a roll of trim coil, and he's going to be out there hand breaking fascia to fit the house. So where the original line item, 6 or 8 inch fascia, was probably paying you $3 a foot, you substitute that with custom bent aluminum or custom bent metal, and that's $10 a foot. That's triple. So if you had $400 worth of fascia metal on your estimate first, you just turned it with a snap of your finger, you turned it into $1,200. And you can get that approved 100% of the time. That's like one of the easiest tricks in the book, and most people don't know it. The only reason they know it is because they heard me say it on YouTube. Right? So that's one tiny example right there with one line item that would have added $800 to that claim, and it's one thing. But there's so many other things. Generators, emergency tarps, okay? There's all sorts of stuff. Project manager supervision hours, cornice returns, cornice strips, cleaning windows. You can get paid to clean windows after the roof gets done. There's all kinds of stuff, all right?
Wow, okay.
So step one is, and I know that was a long-winded version, but I know you're kind of new to this, so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. That's what you add. So the list just has it. There's the supplemental master list, and it's basically got roof, siding, gutters, interior, and then a little bit of commercial as well for different safety precautions and things like that. So that brings us to step two. Step two is going to be how you ask, okay? And Bree, you sound like a pretty lady. You've probably been at a bar before where you got hit on by a guy, right? Guaranteed.
Yeah, my dad's on the line.
So don't worry, we're going to keep this PG. Don't worry. So you've probably been hit on at a bar. There's 2 different ways a guy could come and hit on you. One is he could come up, smack you on the rump, look you up and down, lick his lips, and then be like, "Did it hurt when you fell from heaven?" And you're like, "Oh my God, please go away." And then ask you for your phone number. Then a guy could come up and be like, "I really like your hair." And you're like, "Thanks." He's like, "My sister's got blonde hair, and I always notice really good highlights." You're like, "Thank you so much. That's a really nice thing to say." He makes a joke about the other guy. You guys are chatting. He walks away, leaves you alone for a while. A few minutes later, he comes back. He's hanging out. You guys are chatting. You have a great conversation. And at the end, he's like, "I'd love to see you again sometime. Would you mind if I got your number? Or would you mind if I gave you my number?" Which one of those people is going to get you to say yes?
Obviously the second guy. The
guy
guy who's
number
got
2.
the better delivery,
Exactly. But my point here is both men were asking for the same thing, right?
Sure.
The only difference was how they asked, and that had everything to do with whether you said yes or no, right?
Sure.
This is the same thing. Everything is a sales pitch, all right? You are asking, you're basically selling the adjuster on saying yes, and you don't just send them a list of things and be like, "Pay for these things." That's a really crappy sales pitch, okay? Instead, you want to make sure that you're selling it on why these are reasonable things. You're a reasonable person. They have a job to do, so do you. You're not trying to step on any toes. So what I've done is, in the course, there's two kind of parts to that, because the first part is you're going to email off supplements, and there's a paragraph that you're going to use that introduces the supplement, and it makes it sound like how it reads is they asked you to send it, okay? So they open it and they're like, "Oh, sounds like someone probably talked to this guy and they sent it over, and it's like, here's the stuff you guys requested, let me know if you have any questions." And they're like, "Oh." And they open it instead of, like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry sends off a very aggressive email that's like, "You bleep, 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 you need to pay for this stuff, and you never do, and blah, 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 and we're a general contractor, blah, blah." It doesn't sound aggressive at all. It's just like, "Hey guys, how's it going? I know you guys are really busy. Here's, the revised Xactimate estimate that you requested. Let me know if you have any questions. Here's what we're asking for and why," which is the second part. You're not just asking for A, B, C, D, and E. You're asking for A, here's exactly why, here's the documentation, here's the photo. B, here's exactly why, here's the documentation, here's the photo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes it as easy as humanly possible for them to say yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So how you ask is sometimes more important than even what you're asking for, okay? And you'll have adjusters respond to you and be like, awesome, thanks for sending that over. Yeah, check is in the mail. So you're going to have, we just find there's a way more positive response and timeliness to getting things approved using the method that I teach in that way, okay?
Okay.
So then that brings us to part number 3. And this is the most important part. And Bree, if you don't take anything else away from this, take this away from this conversation, okay? So, as cool as it would be that you use my magical list of line items and you say, and you perfectly execute the script in the email and you say everything perfectly, and then every single adjuster rolls over, lets you scratch their belly and says, Bree, thank you so much for sending that over. Your check is in the mail. What other money can I give you? Which still happens sometimes, but guess what? Guess what adjusters are still going to say to you? Any guesses?
Just that they're not going to pay any of that until it's like incurred. I've seen that a couple of times.
Okay, well that's something that can happen, pay when incurred, but ding, 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 they're just going to say, nah, we don't pay for that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, they're still going to say no to a lot of stuff. Guess why?
Because they can.
It's their
That's
job.
You've got really, nothing to say to them.
It's their job, right? Literally,
Sure.
one day I chuckled because an adjuster, I met him on an appointment. He gave me his business card before I left, and I looked under it and it said his name, and then it said loss mitigation for whatever the insurance company was, Nationwide or AAA or something like that. So literally,
Sure.
their job is to mitigate loss for the insurance company, right? So the adjuster's
Which
job
is not paying out.
Exactly. And again, like I said, they're not necessarily trying to screw people over, but they have superiors too, and it is their job to pay as little as humanly possible. All right?
Sure.
So, the third part of this puzzle is handling as many objections as humanly possible. So, I can't, and nobody can, by the way, I can't teach you how to overcome every single objection, every single time, with every single insurance company, with every single adjuster, on every single item. There's no such thing. They're going to give you objections, but the point is, I want you to be able to instead just go, oh, okay, I guess if it's your inside policy not to pay for Ice and Water Shield, then I guess we just won't get it.
Sure.
I'm showing you how to not just argue and have a back and forth pissing contest. I'm giving you, if this, then that format of handling objections. So it'll teach you, for example, if an adjuster says this, says this, you say that. If they say that, you say this. Send this photo. Use this phrase. Have your customer send this letter. Ask for this instead. Say this until you might go back and forth 2, 3, 4, 5 times on certain things until you either get what you want or you get enough of what you're asking for that you go, well, we were asking for $6,700 and we're getting $5,800. Good enough. Like, let's move on to the next one. Because I'm also not teaching you guys to argue for 15 days over a turtle vent. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Okay? But objection handling is going to be a part. Like, that's what, it's a sales pitch. You're going to be handling objections. And the point is, sometimes they're not going to give you any objections. They will literally email you back in 2 hours and go, everything looks good, checks in the mail today. And you're like, cool. And sometimes they're just going to pay for half of it. And that's all you're going to get. And sometimes you're going to have a really tough insurance company like Allstate or Safeco, and they're going to only pay for 2 out of the 11 things that you asked for. But at the end of the day, the numbers that you can bank on, and you can look through all the testimonials, you can talk to these contractors if you want, but at the end of the day, you can bank on, across the board, an average increase of $2,500 or more per claim following this system. So if you think
okay,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to
go
ask
ahead. Go ahead.
specifically what product it is. I imagine that you would think your bundle deal for the Xactimate and the roofing sales mastery plus supplementing.
That's right.
That would probably be the best fit.
It's 2, yeah. So there's a bundle that you'd really want to look at, and that's the Advanced Sales and Supplement Training Program plus the Xactimate Mastery course. And so those two teach everything. So they're two different courses because Xactimate Mastery is like the technical aspects of using Xactimate software, right? Most people can self-teach themselves like the most basic components. Like you could figure out how to make a cover sheet and how to put together a basic estimate step by step by step. And you can figure out how to put together a supplement. But most people don't figure out the sketch tool. They don't figure out macros. They don't figure out how to use the language and definitions properly in there. So that course basically teaches you like the technical aspects of Xactimate, how to basically how to put together an Xactimate estimate that looks exactly like how an adjuster would do it, how to import your photos and eagle views directly into your estimates. That's another thing. So if you send off an estimate and Joe at State Farm opens it and it's got 62 attachments because you literally have 46 pictures in there that you needed. You've got a copy of the eagle view. You've got a copy of the contingency agreement. You've got a copy of the local code. The adjuster opens that up and they already don't want to look at it because it looks like a bunch of work, right?
Sure.
So learning to import everything into one neat, tidy PDF is really important because think about it, like these adjusters are getting bombarded with supplements all day long, all day.
Sure.
So we want to make it look really easy. We show you how to create an overhead and profit cover sheet, which actually takes language from Xactimate's white pages, which is really important for helping getting you O&P. We show you how to do some like additional supplementing and estimating for commercial, interior, and mitigation if you ever get into that. We teach you the sketch tool. And then the big thing for you, Bree, is going to be the macros. How far have you gotten? Have you learned what macros are?
Not relative to Xactimate yet.
Okay. So macros basically are like this. So most of the time, and Brant, you can testify to this, when you, like most of the roofs that you do are going to be, generally speaking, the same. They've all got, let's say most of the time, you're going to have a 3-tab or a 30 architectural, and all of those are going to have felt and drip edge and pipe jacks and vents and so on and so forth, right?
Correct.
Different measurements, different pitches, but most of the time, 90% of the same materials, agreed?
Mm-hmm.
So Bree, let's say the average estimate typically is going to take you 35 to 40 minutes to put together, and if you've got siding and gutters and all that stuff, it might take a little longer than that. But let's say you've got a stack of 5 estimates you got to do for yourself today, or supplements, and you sit down at the computer, and here's how it goes. You go in, you open up the cover sheet, you fill everything in, that takes a few minutes, and then you go in and you start to build the estimate. You look for the right shingles, you click it, you add it, then you're looking for the right felt paper one, and then you click it and you add it, and then you're looking for the steep and the high, and then you click that and you add it, and then you're searching for drip edge, you click, 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 and like 35, 40 minutes later, you're finally done. And then you're going to do that 4 more times, almost identical projects. It takes forever. So the macro templates are pre-written, one-click bulk add features for type of project. So if it's a 30-yard, right, it saves so much time. And I never learned this when I was doing this, so I had to do everything by hand. It took so much time. And so these are basically like, oh, it's a 30 architectural, click. It's a cedar shake, click. It's an aluminum siding house, click. So it's really easy. It saves you a ton of time. And then you can just go in, you can import the eagle view, you edit some measurements, and it literally cuts your estimating time in half. So way less time involved, all right? Very important. So we teach you how to make those, but the good news is we actually give you over 100 of them. So you don't even have to make them yourself. We did it for you, okay?
Wow, neat.
So that's all in there, and then we teach you how to use like language and definitions and stuff like that in Xactimate as well, so you can, because that's how you specifically come over objections. Adjusters are going to, like, you're going to ask for harnesses, and then Nationwide's going to go, well, actually, we already paid for the steep and high charge. Harnesses are included. What are you going to say?
Yeah, really.
Oh, are you sure? All right. And then you give out, right? And so adjusters do that to you all the time because they know that you don't know Xactimate inside and out. Most contractors just know basic stuff, how to write an estimate. So that course basically is going to teach you all the technical stuff. We call it the science. And then the other one is like the art of supplementing. What to say, what to add, how to handle objections, how to have those conversations, different tools, all that stuff, okay?
Okay.
So
and now for somebody who's totally new to this, is that going to be enough to, especially because I'm remote, because he's doing a lot of the jobs in Colorado Springs.
Right.
I live in Reno.
Right.
So we're just communicating mostly, with phone calls and emails.
Yeah. Well,
so is that going to be enough for me to be able to do my job?
I have a recommendation for you guys. I would say that one thing that's really going to help is if everybody is using Company Cam. That's an app. I can't sell you that. I'm not affiliated with it, but I really like it. So Company Cam. And that's a GPS-powered, cloud-based photo organizing app. So, because one thing that you're going to need to be able to do your job, Bree, is you need eyes on the property. If you just get an estimate, you can't look at that and go, well, okay, well, what else do we need? Like, for example, let's say that there's a siding job that you're going to be doing, and you've got pictures of all elevations, it's all organized right there. You can look at the house like you're there and go, oh, well, there's a ton of wiring and stuff on this side of the house. I can get general labor hours to work around that. We can do detach and reset on these things and these things. So, but what you don't want to have is Bree sits down at the computer, she logs in, she starts to try to do this estimate. Well, shoot, I can't even see this. I can't even finish my estimate. And then she texts you, Brant, and you're like, well, I can't get over that property again until Tuesday. And you're like, okay. And then you put that in the hopper and it sits there. You need to be able to see everything right away. And so Company Cam is a great app. And honestly, I think it's only like $9 a month or something. Highly recommend. Most people I would say my organization are using it at this point. It's probably the most well-revered app that people are using for roof sales. That's going to automatically, you go to the property, you take all the pictures you need, it automatically uploads and organizes it into the app by address. You can make notes on it. So your dad could literally be in the field looking at 123 Acorn Street, take pictures, make the special notes, and then you're sitting there on the computer in real time. You can start building estimates and supplements for that. Highly recommend.
That's kind of neat. Okay. Yeah. We'll look into that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. As far as just the value to me would be support for her. Mm-hmm. What support do you have or what do you offer?
So, two things. What automatically comes with these programs are 2 support forums. So that's where all the discussion takes place. That's on Facebook. So there's a forum for Xactimate Mastery, like specific Xactimate questions. That's where you're going to tag Alina Wilson, and that's her program. She's the Xactimate wizard. That's where you can ask all the questions you need in there. Then in my forum, the Roof Sales Mastery membership forum, that's where you can put broad questions about supplementing. AAA is saying this. I've never had them say this before. What would you guys do? And you don't just get my help in there. You'll get 15 other contractors that'll pitch in and say, oh, we dealt with this exact same thing. Here's what worked for us. Or you're going to want to do appraisal on that. Or here's a document that has helped me in the past. Do you want to use it? So that's where you can ask questions. You can certainly tag me in there if you specifically want to get my answer, because there's hundreds of stuff going on in there every single day. But people sometimes ask me, they're like, so Becca, now that I'm in the program, if I have a question, can I just call you? I'm like, you guys know, because there's only one of me, and there's literally well over 1,000 contractors in my program right now. So I'm only one human. I can't offer personal, consulting to be included in packages. It is available separately in an as-needed basis.
I scoured the internet and I could not find any critical reviews on your programs.
I know.
Why is that?
Because my shit's good, Bree.